Welcome back to Post-CHOGM 2018, the review. I have been speaking with the Acting High Commissioner of Jamaica. He is Mr. John Clark, the British High Commissioner, Paul Arkwright, Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina. We've been having a great conversation here, but I want to raise this issue about the Queen. Congratulations on her 92nd birthday.
Thank you.
And it is her final CHOGM, isn't it?
She's not said that.
But she has informally handed over to Prince Charles.
Well, there has been an agreement that her son, Prince Charles, will succeed her at the point at which she steps down. But she has not said exactly when that point will be.
What should we expect from the new leadership, perhaps, if Prince Charles takes over perhaps before the end of the year?
Well, you've heard from Her Majesty the Queen herself. She talks about continuity. I think that's part of that. So continuing the really strong things that bind the Commonwealth family together, the values that bind the Commonwealth together. He has a very sharp focus on climate change and the environment, as you know. He's very interested in religion, and he's done a lot of work in reconciling Christians and Muslims. So I think we'll see perhaps more of an emphasis on countering violent extremism and the ideology which promotes that. And of course, many of the things that we've talked about, health, education, things that matter to the people of the Commonwealth, I'm quite sure that he will be continuing to pursue those very energetically.
Now, before the Commonwealth started, there was a lot of noise about the Windrush generation and, the problems that they have with the British government, and some of them being wrongfully deported and so on. I know the Prime Minister, apologized to these people, but how do you right those wrongs? And, the deportations are still going. No, they're not going on because she stopped them already.
They're not going on.
She stopped them.
They're not going on.
Yes.
No.
But why in the first place deport people whom you cannot prove? Enter the country wrongfully?
I think that something went wrong. And I think when things go wrong, you have to admit that things go wrong. The Prime Minister has apologized. The Home Secretary has apologized. Something happened which should not have happened. There may be some reasons in the past why, for data protection reasons, some of the records were destroyed. But I don't think that's a real excuse or a reason. I think it's only right that the British government should put right the wrong that has happened to the Windrush generation and indeed compensate them. And again, the government has said they will look at compensation for particular individuals, people who've been affected by those decisions. So it was a mistake. It was something that should not have happened. The government has apologized and they're trying to put it right.
Jamaica is one of those countries affected. I mean, you're from the Caribbean. Do you accept the Prime Minister's apology, and do you think that, this sets the tone for making things right?
Yes, it was an unfortunate episode in which the children of the Windrush generation were unfairly treated. We're encouraged that the Prime Minister May met with Caribbean leaders during the time of the Commonwealth meetings and apologized and committed to righting the wrong. And subsequently, we've seen reports that the Home Secretary has committed to compensate where necessary and to assist the affected persons in obtaining their documents. So we are pleased, we are encouraged about that. I think all of this, it speaks to the relevance of the Commonwealth, that an issue like this was resolved in a Commonwealth forum, and going forward, it will be the affected countries will, through the Commonwealth, be able to, in collaboration with their Commonwealth members, ensure that Commonwealth principles are maintained, because this is what is at the heart of it, that it was, what happened was inconsistent with the principles of the Commonwealth. And so that's how it can be looked at in that way, that this is a this is an example of the relevance of the Commonwealth in resolving issues where developing countries can collectively have some influence.
What are your thoughts on the situation that happened and how the UK government has handled, the UK government and the Commonwealth have handled it?
I think they've done, I think they've done very well, given the fact that when you look at the issue really, I think the Prime Minister did the right thing to apologize, and I think it was also comforting to know that they're going to pay some compensation at the end of the day, and that the whole idea of deportation has been, cancelled or, receded. I think they did very well in the way they handled the issue.
I know immigration plays a big role, amongst Commonwealth countries and countries that used to be under British colonization. And the European Union was involved in discussions on how to curb migrations, which we saw increase tremendously over the past few years. Do you feel comfortable, Mr. Adesina, with the way these countries have handled issues of immigration and migration?
Yeah, very, very important issue because youths particularly are involved with illegal migration. When our president met the British PM before the main Commonwealth, it was one of the issues that they discussed. The president lamented the fact that youths, not just from Nigeria, but almost from Africa, dare the Sahara Desert, dare the Mediterranean to try to cross into Europe. And that was why he asked for more investments in Nigeria so that jobs can be made available to them. I remember the British PM particularly saying that when you make the environment conducive at home, those youths will have the encouragement to stay more at home rather than want to migrate illegally. So I think it's a very, very important issue. The things that encourage irregular migration must be looked into so that young people will be encouraged to stay more in their own country.
And I'm sure you're going to tell us soon that the government is doing all it can to provide the conducive environment.
That is what government is all about. That is what governance is about. Make the situation more conducive for your citizenry, particularly the youths. A few days before the president left, he left on April 9th. On April 5th, he had met the head of EU delegation in Nigeria when he presented his letters of credence. And he told him, why is Nigeria fighting corruption? Why are we insisting on transparency and accountability? It is so that we can have a country where our youths can live in and prosper. So the government is doing a lot in that direction.